Okay, so it is May the 6th, 2022. It's a Friday and rain day. I can't do anything today. I got about 9 or 10 homes left on my route that I would have liked to have gotten done today, and they're just not going to get done until tomorrow, unfortunately. Rained at the second half of yesterday, and that kind of happens. I lost Tuesday this week due to rain. Whatever. We're just kind of moving through it. I want to talk today briefly. By the way, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please consider doing so. I had a customer that quit me, ironically, which annoyed me because I wanted to quit him, and he was a new customer. But he had called residential property, had his own, and an open lawn, and then he had a rental property very close by that had a fenced-in backyard. I don't like fenced-in backyards. I'm not saying I won't do it. They just take more work, plain and simple. And ideally, if I can choose between the two, I'm going to try to load myself up with lawns that don't have those fences in the backyard. So anyway, so I picked him up, and the first time I went to his rental property last week, the grass was about 1.5 feet tall. So I had to cut it, on the highest settings of the mowers, and for the front yard, that was on the transport setting, and on the backyard, that was all the way up on that smaller mower that I have. Well, anyway, I got it done, and then I went and I got his primary home done, and about 2 days later, I just got back from out of town. Joshua, I'm not really happy with your mowing. You missed. I've got grass in my window wells. So what he's talking about is along the side of his property and behind his property, he's got a couple of window wells that are maybe 1 inch above the ground, and then they have this screen on top of it. I've not really seen something like this type of a setup before because of the way it comes together. It's like you're going to have to get rid of the grass and put mulch there, or you're always going to have grass growing through the screening, and you're going to tear it up. And I'm not going to do that. There are some areas that I will and won't service. If a customer, for example, wants me to get the grass behind the hose box, behind the meter box, if they have like shadow fencing, okay, where grass comes up through, the only thing I can do for that is hit it with a vegetative killer, period. That's it. I'm not going to sit there and trim and tear up the fence or waste trim line or anything like that. And it's an additional charge. I hold the 3B license. The product isn't inexpensive, or it's not necessarily really expensive, but it's not free. So I followed up with them on that. I said, yeah, we'll look at it again next time. And about the best thing we can do is trim about 1/4 inch above the screen where the grass is, so there's a little bit of grass. That's the only thing we can do. The other issue with his home is it's a fairly new property, probably built within the last 2 years, maybe even 3 years. I'm going to say probably 1.5 years, actually, whatever. But along the back, he's got a patio that has chunks of concrete off the patio in the lawn. And when I say chunks, there are some big pieces, but there are smaller pieces like rock size where he wants it to be trimmed. And it's just a recipe for disaster for the trimmer to hit it, boom, and shoot it through the window. Okay? But what do I know? I've only been mowing grass, for X years. So I got his properties mowed for him yesterday, and his dog comes out. Now, this is what bothers me. I'm at his rental property, and I've been there for about 20 minutes, and I get my way to the backyard, and I'm working back there, and the rental guy lets his doggone dog out while I'm back there. Now, I've never met this dog before, and it's not a real big dog by any means. My immediate concern and aggravation was the gate was open. I didn't even know that they had a dog there in the first place. But the gate was open, so I'm thinking that's a liability. That dog could get out and run away, not to mention he could get killed. And I don't want a dog to die. Or the dog could get hit by a rock or something shooting from the trimmer or the mower or whatever, and it doesn't know me. And I'm in the backyard with the mower at its home, and you know how dogs are, not all dogs are the same, but it's a recipe for disaster. So I sent him an email later. I'm like, look, this can never happen again. This is a liability, and we got everything else done. That's okay. And I sent him over his contract because at this point in time, I'm not going to mow anymore outside of a contract. He says, that's okay. I've decided to go my other ways. You've mowed a couple of times now, and I'm not impressed with your work or something. And I thought, first of all, that's a blessing. The work, there was nothing wrong with the work, okay? The work was good, but his second property, the rental property, was covered in weeds. He didn't have it treated. I don't like putting my equipment on that because that stuff can transfer seeds from property to property, disease, all that kind of stuff. And his main property has issues. There are some people out there that have unrealistic expectations, and this was one of those guys. So the funny thing about that is, last week after I mowed the properties, there were just red flags, dude. I mean, this happens all the time when this happens. Red flags, like the universe is speaking to me, like God is speaking to me and saying, hey, you don't want this lawn. You really don't. And then, which leads me to a point that I made in another video a while ago. It's okay to say no. You know, and so I'm at that point now where I've got a pretty heavy workload each week. And yes, I can take on more lawns, but I'm going to get selective about it. You know, I don't have to do the extra lawns. I get tired, and you get to that point where the gold loses its luster. And, you know, I mean, if you don't let it, your business will get to the point eventually where, you know, it will take over everything. I mean, it's 1:30. I'm here waiting for my children to get out of school on a rainy day. They get off in 30 minutes. And I went ahead and got up and got saddled up today, went out and mowed a lawn. Even though it was really wet, it was a big property. I had to get it done because I thought, man, it's going to make it easier for me tomorrow. I wanted to mow a couple more of my big properties where rain doesn't really necessarily matter, but it was just too saturated at that time. So I spent the rest of the morning, you know, working on my trailer, putting on a new attachment, you know, making sure that I had my fertilizers and herbicides in the bed of my truck, that my mowers were gassed up, all that kind of stuff. So I got all that stuff done and ran some other personal errands during the day to get it done. And, you know, tomorrow will come and I'll be able to get everything taken care of. But, you know, you don't have to just indefinitely say yes to people. You know, get selective. I mean, think about it like this. If you have a riding lawnmower, whether you're standing on it riding, okay, or you're sitting down riding, if you go out and mow 20 yards that day, that's what all the mowing is being done outside of the trimming. You're, you know, and let's say it's the same workload, the same properties, versus, you know, doing half of them with a push mower. The push mower side of things, dude, at the end of the day, you're going to be beat down. Your knees aren't going to last forever. You're going to put more stress on your back. You're going to burn more calories, which in some ways could be a good thing, but at the end of the day, you're going to be tired, and it's going to be harder for you to earn that money. So as time progresses, you can become more selective about the properties that you take on, and maybe even take on those less desirable and replace those with those that are more desirable as it comes. And maybe even just, you know, maybe not necessarily go out of the way for those lawns that you do that you don't want to have. You know what I mean? I mean, you can become, you know, creative in what you do. But the point that I want to get at is red flags again, less desirable properties. I didn't want to mow either one of these lawns, but it just kind of annoyed me. They was like, yeah, I'm not impressed with your work. I'm thinking, dude, there was nothing wrong with either one of the mows. They were really good. I did a really good job. And you know, it reminded me of something growing up, and I'm going to be forward here for a second, where I heard someone say, you can polish a turd to a high gloss shine, but at the end of the day, it's still a piece of shit. And that's really what it comes down to. So, hey, I don't have to mow the guy's lawn anymore, but it's like listening to it, you know, to your intuition when it's telling you, dude, you don't want this lawn, you don't want this lawn, maybe you want to cut it out. So if you got that, you know, listen to it. If you feel like something's speaking to you, and try to, you know, take what you can get while you can earn what you can earn, but understand that you can replace lawns. You don't have to stay with them forever. Because I'll tell you this much, I don't care how good you are to a customer, how good your work is, how long you've worked for them, a customer can drop you for any given reason. Okay, and they will. Maybe it's because somebody else was cheaper. Maybe it's because their cousin, you know, their second cousin or their child is home, you know, for the summer and they need book money. Or the neighborhood kid wants to make some extra money to go on a mission trip or whatever. They'll drop you. I'm telling you, it's just a matter of time. You'll have some customers that no matter what will always be around. But the grand scheme of things and the bigger picture, more of them are going to, you know, they're going to look out for themselves. I mean, it's like if they can't afford to pay an extra bill because they lost their job, lawn mowing might be one of the first things to go. I get it. You know, pay a mortgage or pay the lawn mowing guy. Well, the mortgage, obviously. So, hey, subscribe to my channel if you like what you see, man. Share it with people. Peace.